All right, everybody, how we doing? I am actually trying to connect this to YouTube, so we'll see how it goes on our first pass here. Zoom has changed a bunch of stuff here, so we don't know exactly what it's going to play out, but we're going to try to start. All right, everybody, how we doing? I am actually trying to connect this to YouTube,
It's
so we'll see
working.
how it goes on
So
our
we got to
first
mute it
pass
over there.
here.
Hang on.
Zoom has changed.
There we go.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Let me get my screen share going here. I want to welcome everybody to another round. And let's go over what we're going to cover here. Let me share my screen. So if you have been here before, what you know is that this is called the Profitable Agent Plan. And what it is a 12-step course that I have devised based on what I do myself every day and each week as a practicing broker for the last 25 years, but more importantly, as a coach for the last, 18 years now, losing count because it's getting so long in the tooth, Roberto, right? Many years have passed. So the idea is always to give away my best what to do information for free. That's my motto. The mission statement of all of my companies is to be a person for others. So what you are going to get in this course is absolutely my best what to do information for free. And in our philosophy, as we go along through this plan, you're going to see how I use that in my own business and how I teach that in my coaching business. In fact, when I coach, I do not teach anything that I do not do. There is no secret from what I do to what I teach, all the way to the free stuff like this. But of course, what you're experiencing in something like this is the highest level. It's the what to do. So, in other words, with or without me, these are the things that I think you should do. Now, of course, as time goes on, there's a lot of questions about how to do certain things in my paid coaching program. That's where I teach one-on-one my top producing clients or people wanting to be top producers. We teach them how we do what we do. But in this course, I give away a lot of that. You'll see me dabble, especially when we get into unique selling propositions in week 3. I actually show you the very unique selling proposition, information product that I created both on the sell side, the buy side, and if you're recruiting, I have one for the agent side too, but a fundamental how I do something. So throughout the course, albeit it is what to do, I do tease into how I do things from time to time. So I would recommend that you understand how to consume this is that I always have a fill in the blank on the free Facebook site. Facebook just kind of made things more difficult because we used to broadcast this into the Facebook group. So we're going to have to figure out how that all works now to upload a Zoom or whatever we're going to do. So I can't necessarily make the promise right now that I can share something into a Facebook group. So the good news for you is the last 12 sessions were all recorded. I'm sure there's going to be a workaround, but if you're not aware, Zoom no longer allows you, or at least at the moment, to go from Zoom directly into a Facebook group. You can do it to a page and you can do it to your profile, but you can't do it to a group anymore. So I'll figure out a workaround to get you access to these videos. And it might be as simple as I might put them in a Google Doc and share them on the Facebook group so that there's no wondering where everything is. Or we'll put the whole course maybe in a Google Doc, and that will be our workaround. But in the meantime, when you attend these live, what you're going to see is I'm going to go through a fill in the blank. Okay. So the fill in the blank worksheet is going to go through each week where it's just a way to learn. And it's something that I learned as a doer of learning and then a teacher to teach learning, that if you have a fill in the blank document, even albeit stupid simple, when you hear something and I ask you to fill in the blank and you take it from your brain through your arm and through the pen and onto that paper, that is the most unbelievably important way to learn, because that act of writing, that's why people to this very day write journals and write tasks and do time boxing, because you get it out of your head and you pull it through your arm and onto a piece of paper, something magical happens. I call it capturing fireflies. All of a sudden you hear that zzz, and the lights go on in your brain. You capture that idea and you pull it through into the jar. That's what you should do to consume this stuff, and really make it permanent and for you, make it your own. Okay. So this week we go through the mindset, right? This is the most important thing here. I won't indulge you in this whole profitable agent plan because it's also in the files on the Facebook group. I'll show you that in a second. But we're going to talk about the mindset. You cannot be a profitable real estate agent. And I'm not talking about squishy mindset stuff and rah-rah stuff. I'm talking about actual techniques where you can program your brain to, at the subconscious level, to behave in a certain way as a profitable agent. As a little anecdote to start off, I can tell you, I have two clients that I can think of immediately that, and they're new clients of mine up in, actually, they both happen to be, well, no, one is Canada, one's in California. Cherie has all of a sudden gone from in Southeast San Diego doing things that were below median to doing things that are well above median, getting some $1 million sales for the first time because we talk about what it is to be a profitable agent. And very simply put, it's really focusing on those median properties and above, and then letting your subconscious go to work and letting this plan go to work for you, right? And amazing things happen. Another one up in Montreal, actually in Gatineau. So as part of Quebec, Mederic, he's up there, and we're looking at his book of business today as his prospects, and we're seeing 600, 800, and he was doing 200 and 300 6 months ago when we started. And we're just barely getting into some of the campaigns per se. Like a postcard campaign works very well in Canada, not so much in the States. Telemarketing with expireds works well here. So we can get into some of the intentionalities to do this, but even just the mindset has moved some of my clients in a more profitable direction. So this isn't theory. This is in practice. I just gave you two real people. You can look them up. Cherie Jones, Sheri Jones in San Diego, wonderful gal. If you're looking to refer somebody out there. And then Mederic, Mederic, Danis, Danis, two real agents that I am coaching who just early on in that process have begun to change their mindset. I could go on and on. I could say wonderful things about Valerie Bovair, also up in Canada, making tremendous progress here. Roberto, who's on this, and he's probably the best example because he was a profitable agent attendee for a long time before he sought out paid coaching with me. And so slowly but surely, we are culling out the things that he did at the low end, making his geography smaller, getting him into these places and door knocking in his case, right, Roberto? Is that fair? Door knocking on some of these, listings or houses that would become listings that would make him way more profitable per deal. So it's all of this acting as if you are already there, and I'm going to talk about that tonight, okay? So again, the way to go and consume everything, every single week, what I do is I post the worksheet, and there is a mass broadcast email I send out, mostly to the group out in California, because I can get a hold of that list. It's tough to get some of the other places where we're active in Seattle. We're looking for a way to get a list out there so we can let our Seattle agents know out there, soon to be Arizona. So a lot of the partnerships that I have in my brokerage at the Griffin, we're starting to open this up and invite people in for this free, and it's free. We're not looking to recruit anybody necessarily, either to coaching or the Griffin brokerage, but this is for free. And so I give you a little teaser as to what I was thinking when I was sending the email in real time, thinking to myself, what is most important about bulletproofing your self-image as a profitable agent, right? So I give you a little teaser there each week, and then I attach the PDF, fill in the blank, okay? So that fill in the blank is a downloadable. So if you just get in there and you can get a copy of that too, it just downloaded to my computer by just clicking on it. But also all those files are in here as well, right? So week one, self-image management, that's the file that just got put up there. And you can see where we just ended week 12, and we had 2 weeks off, as you can notice here, and we're back in action. And so there's your PDF. Now, like I said, little snafu with Facebook changing something. Literally, I think it went 2 days ago, where they won't allow us to record directly into the group from Zoom. We'll figure out a workout. But the good news for you is all of these under videos, okay, all of these were subsequently recorded. So, and I think I caught them all. I think maybe we had maybe one or two snafus, but we've been through this course, I think 3 or 4 times already. So if you just work backwards, you would be working, from the latest. So number 12, 11, 10, 9, you get it. So you can find the former teaching videos that are already up there. And again, like I said, we'll do our best to modernize the videos depending on what the technology will allow us to do. And of course, anytime that you want to, you can shoot me a comment. You could comment under this one and ask questions, or you could just post something here. So if you're watching this, and I know it's getting more difficult to reach, even with 249 members since we started, and we don't even do any advertising. These are just coming from maybe emails and referrals. So use this discussion with me. I will watch it and I will answer it. And I may very well invite you onto another call that's inside the coaching program, give you a little bit more help depending on what you need. But I can't do that if you're not proactive. Okay. So this site right here is where we really can give you some more help, but you got to be proactive in that, take advantage of it. Okay. All right. So tonight, let's get the slideshow going. And just so you know what I do is I go through this. So it does get a little bit lecture-y per se, but at the end, I am wide open to comments and questions and coaching about any of what you will see here today, or whatever. If you feel stuck in your business and you're frustrated and you want some guidance, I'm happy to jump around when it comes to the Q&A. But if you don't ask or comment, I don't know how to help you. Okay. So one of the things that I would say is if you're shy or you're a visitor and you're not comfortable, just put something in the chat. I'll talk to you through the chat, right? I mean, I'll read it and I'll talk to everybody because some of your questions are probably what's on everybody's mind. And I am not a guy who believes that there is any such thing as a bad question. Every question to me is a good question because usually the simplest ones are the ones that refine. And any of my one-on-one coaching members that have been with me, some of them have been with me over 20 years from another program to this program, actually well beyond. I mean, I've known some of these folks that I coach since, let's see, technically probably 91, right? I'm sorry, 90, 2001. Yeah, so 2001, I've known them. So I've known them over 20 years, right? So right after September 11th, I met a lot of them at another company and been friends and they've been clients of mine ever since, okay? So they would tell you that over time, we've done nothing but simplify and simplify and simplify. We don't like complicated. We want it easy. We want the easy button for us and subsequently all the people we're trying to work with, okay? All right, so how to become empowered even before you start. Let's get going here. Self-image development has a lot to do with the theater of the mind, okay? And so one of the books that affected me greatly in all of this was Maxwell Maltz's Psycho-Cybernetics, okay? So I cannot more highly recommend a book that had a huge impact on me than Psycho-Cybernetics. And Psycho-Cybernetics is all about, I don't think my man spelled it, my film guy, I'm not sure if he spelled psycho right, but Psycho-Cybernetics is really loosely translated mind systems, or really technically mind steering systems. Cybernetics is the act of steering systems. And I think that's a brilliant name. So it's mind steering systems. And that's what these are. Right. So when you learn some of these tools that I talk about tonight about Maxwell Maltz, what you're going to realize is this is actually a real tool bag that you can use to direct your mind to be a profitable agent. And I already gave you 2 live examples tonight of 2 of my clients that are already getting a better result simply because of our conversation about the basis of being a profitable agent starts with trying to get listings at or above the median price in the geography within which they work. And all of a sudden, the subconscious has gone to work for them and it's happening. So there's, I like the law of attraction, but I believe that there are tools you have to use to get those things attracted to you. And that's the way that you think. So a law of attraction just doesn't happen on its own. You have to begin to let the subconscious work for you and it will attract things. Okay. All right. So here we go with the fill in the blank. The theater of the mind, as I've referenced already, imagine that there's a theater inside your mind, is where you can visualize and create your ideal self-image. Now, Maltz, in his body of work, Psycho-Cybernetics, is given a lot of credit for being the one that proliferated or really promoted this term self-image. Not that I think he's the first to do it, but again, and by the way, I should just give you a background on him. He was a plastic surgeon in the early to mid 1900s in New York City. If you ever hear any of his audios, and I suggest you do, he's got a nice thick Brooklyn accent. It's really the texture of this whole thing, this body of work of his is really delicious, right? And he really gets into this. So he learned from taking care of people's faces and reconstructive surgery, and he found that even if he did a great job on somebody's face after they had an accident or whatever it might have been, or just for cosmetic purposes, if they didn't see themselves as looking better, it didn't matter what he did. And that was really empowering to him. And that's what led to this whole body of work that he wanted to teach, right? So nobody better than a plastic surgeon to talk about self-image before and after surgery. Wonderful. So he actually got to see the mind working. Selfishly, as a coach, I'm excited every time I see it working, where I can help somebody reprogram their mind. Because look, when I teach you over these 12 weeks, these things to do, what to do, they work. I know they work because I do them. They might not work for you yet, and that's probably a mindset thing or a self-image thing. You don't see yourself yet as a profitable agent. And that's why I start the course off with this, because it's uncannily, powerful, right? Okay. Your self-image can either limit or empower you depending on your beliefs and perceptions. So when you really think about this, I think one of the best pieces of advice of what to do would be to try to be conscious of some of your thoughts about yourself. And that happens a lot. Like if you wake up in a bad mood, that's sort of a red light that should go off in your head. And again, I totally recommend, when I say journaling, don't make journaling a big deal. Get a small like notebook, have a pen like stuck in the spiral of it, and carry it with you where you go, right? If it's in your, like I have a knapsack that I carry around. It's my go-to, right? My basic little knapsack right here. This is, oh, you probably can't see it because I'm like this, but everything's in there. So I have something to journal on in there and capture these fireflies. And I would recommend, I have them all over my desk too. I have a time boxing thing on one side. I have a yellow legal pad on another, which I like. But I'm learning to just jot things down daily and just thoughts. And what happens is I can begin to see my beliefs and my perceptions. So for me, for example, to be a profitable real estate agent company beyond just me, I start to think about, what are my beliefs about recruiting? And do I believe, am I sitting there thinking, oh, it's a lot of work. Oh, it's so hard to find. Those are negative beliefs. So they can limit the growth of my entire company if I wake up, dredging or dreading, right? Dredging sounds like digging a hole for myself, right? That works too. But dreading going into the recruiting phase for myself, or early on when I was thinking about going to luxury listings and I knew I would probably have to go through some expireds, I was dreading that too. So I had these negative beliefs that I'm not the type of agent that picks up the phone and calls expireds. That was a negative and totally limiting belief. And when I dealt with that belief, okay, I realized I had misperceptions, because what I knew at the moment was very little. And I knew all this stuff about marketing, and I'm going to tell you how I applied this. I never really thought about, how do I really take all the knowledge I have on marketing to make my approach to expireds different than everybody else? Because to me, I figured, oh, I got to do what they do. I got to go get one of these Mike Ferry-esque scripts, and I got to say these ugly things over the line, and I got to drink a pot of coffee to be hyped up. It just sounded so ugly to me that I didn't want it. So I had a misperception that that was the only way to do it, because I had a negative belief about that approach, until I stopped, became conscious of that self-limiting belief. I knew it was there, but I made it very conscious. And I said, well, dummy, why don't you come up with a better way to do that? And that's when I sat down and started to think, okay, I believe I'm a really well-educated marketer, because I've done thousands of hours of studying, reading, I could go on and on, right? Books galore at my office. So I knew all of that stuff, but I had never applied that stuff. So I said, I'm going to create a new image or a belief system that I am a good marketer who can take the basics of marketing. And subsequently, you'll see this in week 3. I created a unique selling proposition in the form of what I would call, what I learned from marketing, a freemium, meaning it's a premium thing that I can give away for free in the form of an information product, which I had learned about years ago, meaning you just take your best what to do information and you turn it into a product. That's exactly what this course is. This course is a multimedia information product. So I just applied that. Like, why? Because there's downloadable PDFs, there's videos, there's a plan. That's all an information product. So I just took that understanding as a coach and applied it to, well, why don't I just coach the sellers? And I began to build a 7-step plan. I knew I needed to add some things to that. I'll get into this in week 3, but you get the point. By simply changing that, I believed I was a good marketer and could solve this ugly problem I had. I got out of the stuck place and into the development state, right? And my perception, which was a misperception that this couldn't be solved differently, suddenly changed in like a week. I'm telling you, like a week. I'm like, holy crap, this makes sense. Now, of course, it needed some development over time, and I'm constantly developing it, but that's how limiting my own belief was. Then I began to see myself more regularly. So go back up to the first line. I started to see myself more as a problem solver in this industry. I didn't just see myself as a profitable agent. I saw myself as somebody who would solve problems in the business to become a profitable agent. So it really started to create this new persona altogether, right? So to change your self-image, you need to change your habits, actions, and as I just said, thoughts. So let's talk about that. My thinking or my thought change was that I was a problem solver in the form of marketing. And in my basic plan, that I teach my coaching clients at the next level. This is the free what to do, but then the how to do. We think in modules strategically as a manager. So we get out of this tactical stuff where I see an ugly script and I just see the expired, and up to and saying, okay, let's stop talking about that for a second. Let's talk about the acquisition of listings at or above the median. And then let's think about expireds differently, that they allow me to know exactly where I want to be at price ranges because I can see the price it expired at and I know the geography. So there's the reason we should think differently about why expireds are so powerful. That's an example. Then the action step was to say, I need to build a unique selling proposition package, an information product. That was an action step. I need to write a script that explains that action step. And later on in the course, we get into Robert Cialdini's book called Influence, where we incorporated a lot of that learning into the script writing action step. And then over time, that way of behaving to manage my business just became a habit. That every time I see a challenge, I see it as an opportunity. So I think that I can solve it. I take an action step to map out how I'm going to do that and create whatever product script I have to. And then I rinse and repeat trying it over and over. And by the way, what happens is I'm trying it on the consumer, so I'm also listening. So there's the concept of Kaizen, which is the constant improvement over time. So I might go back and say, oh, I learned this. So I have a new thinking piece because I listened to a recorded call. I gave a presentation that didn't go so well. I got some feedback from a fellow agent. That makes me go back and tweak the action plan. And then I start to habitually behave in that new way, right? So it's really a formula. I mean, I actually am telling you, I use this and I'm giving you pragmatic ways that I've applied it too, right? Okay. By using positive affirmations and visualizations, you can also reprogram your subconscious mind. So now I want to talk about this, okay? And this isn't necessarily in a particular order. These are key thinking points that you could glean from Maxwell Maltz's work. But one of the things that's most important is that when you see professional athletes training with visualization and affirmations, it happens all the time. You're going to see it in the Paris Olympics, right? So you'll see people talking to themselves. You'll see runners closing their eyes, and they have these things that they're repeating over and over. Well, they don't just do that on the track. They actually do it in the comfort of their most comfortable chair or in their bed right before they go, or in a quiet place out by a stream, wherever they find that place to relax themselves neurologically, biologically, and then they see in their theater of the mind that they see themselves winning. That's what they do. So they just go over it. And their subconscious mind, if they're really good at visualization, their subconscious mind doesn't actually know the difference between them actually running a race and visualizing themselves running a race. Let that sink in. That's like incredibly powerful. That the subconscious mind doesn't really know the difference between visualization practice and physical practice. It sees it, the mind sees it the same way. So let's say that somebody wants to run a 10.47, 100 meters. They can see themselves by closing their eyes in a relaxed state, especially before going to bed. Having this go, because you don't really know in that moment in time how you're going to run your 10.47 meter, but you see yourself doing it. And the more your subconscious mind sees yourself doing it, the next day it becomes resourceful. It says, geez, you're a little slow on the start. So we're going to have to study explosive starts. We're going to have to get with our coach and figure out what, and the subconscious mind just does that. It's unbelievable how it puts the right information in the right order so that you can see yourself. Because remember, in the theater of the mind, you are also the person you're the writer. So you write the story, I'm going to run a 10.47. You're the actress, right? You're the person that's going to go and run this race also. But you're also the audience watching it happen. So in the theater of the mind, you can be all of these things, and it's very powerful. So the subconscious mind is working in the context of the theater of the mind. Incredibly powerful. And every high-level professional uses it, from actors and actresses to athletes to top-performing people. I mean, Paul Tudor Jones still has Tony Robbins, I think, to this day as a coach. And even though Tony says, oh, you don't need me, Tudor Jones says, absolutely I do, because he goes over and over. And by the way, if you do the study on Paul Tudor Jones, he also was a boxer in college at a very high level. So again, an athlete at a high level, they get the power of this stuff, right? And they use it as a weapon in a good way, right? So now, having talked about Maxwell Maltz, it's also important to talk about your disc profile. So there was a guy by the name of Dr. William Moulton Marston, and he's a fascinating character because he is the developer of the lie detector test, right? So he develops the lie detector test, but he also developed what's called the disc personality profile. And so D stands for dominant, I stands for influential, S stands for steady, and C stands for compliant, right? So it's about, I'm trying to recall, 24 questions or whatever it is, where you describe yourself with a specific adjective. And at the end of it, when you fill it all out, it will score you. So you will see these numbers. I think if I recall correctly on mine, I was an 11I, a 10D, and then I was exactly negative. Like, because you can go negative. I was negative S at a level of, it matched the 10. So the D, I was negative 10, and I was negative 11 on the C, which means what? It means that when I come out of the box, normally I'm a high I. That means I'm influential. I like to influence people. That's what a lot of influencers are, right? But I'm also dominant. I want to lead, right? So those are the things. But as a full, well-rounded, profitable real estate agent, I have to be all of these things. So I'm staring at the abyss of a negative S and a negative C saying, oh my gosh, now that I'm conscious of that, I better be careful that follow-up long-term, which is my personal obsession as a coach when I'm coaching my coaching clients. That's my obsession, to solve long-term follow-up, because most people create prospects that turn to clients quickly, and that's all they ever do. They never follow up with the longer-term people, and that's how you make a lot of money in this business. Well, that requires a lot of steadiness, and you have to be steady with your systems, and you have to stick to them. Then a C personality profile, you have to really think about the details of that system. So when I'm writing scripts, for example, they have to be extremely detailed. You have to listen to subtleties of words and trigger words. Then you have to incorporate all laws of influence and make sure that works. So because I became conscious that I wasn't these things, I dialed it up. When I used to coach telemarketing way back in the day, and I learned about the DISC personality profile early on, what I did was I said, you have to dial up your D. Well, later on, I took my own advice and I learned to dial up my S and C's so that naturally I could do the things like I could go into a house and talk to a person and I could give a presentation and I could become likable and I could ask for the deal as a D. It was natural. And under pressure, you go to your natural stuff. So I was good under pressure in those things. But in the other things, I wasn't. Okay. I'm going to get into that a little bit more when we get into the fill in the blank here. But it's very important. And by the way, I think Tony Robbins on his website has a free version of the DISC personality profile. I highly recommend you take that. So that we just talked about theater of the mind and subconscious programming, but you might as well take an inventory of who you are first before you start to program yourself, because that's going to help the subconscious realize you need to be more resourceful on the things you are not naturally. And you might even have to dial down what you are naturally. Let me explain that. I used to go into listing presentations that took me 2 hours because the I in me said, keep selling them on you, keep selling them on you. And it turns out later on that after I understood how powerful a system was, in my C personality kept saying, make it simplest it can be. So that the I goes in there and still has his moment, but he's in and out of there in 45 minutes for the most part, right? Wonderful. Talk about time management. So all of this played a very specific role for me in that, okay? So let's go back to what we just talked about. So the DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and they say conscientiousness, right? Okay, so those are what it stands for. So again, you might think you're one of these, by the way. Take the test and let it really tell you, but I'm sure you'll recognize it, right? You'll recognize yourself as one of these things, two of these things, or if you're kind of nebulous, you're kind of all over the place. Maybe you're not taking a stand on what you are and you're afraid to be that. Just be the thing that you are naturally, because you can always work on the thing you're not, right? Your DISC personality profile can help you understand your natural behavioral and communication tendencies. Okay. So again, if I'm a natural ID in that order, I am very slight, difference, pretty close, but I'm going to tend to maybe be a little bit too rough when my D is up in a house where I'm across the table from somebody who's an SC. And so I might not take the time to thoroughly explain to those two personality types. Or if the the C is very skeptical about me, I might not read that because I might just be like rolling over them. So I might be behaving like that. And my communication style, and again, when I'm lecturing, it's hard to say this, so it's always kind of a laugh, tongue in cheek, right? Listen to the guy just talking at us for like 45 minutes without a breath. I get it, but I think I shocked my client care manager, Laura, the first time she went to one of the listing presentations with me. She said, holy crap, I've never heard you say so little. I'm like, yeah, I'm letting them come to me in the 7 steps. And I'm only dealing with what I have to deal with because he's plenty smart and he understands it. So that's how I began to understand how to dial it down. And I dial it down. And again, you'll see a lot more of this in week 3 about my unique selling proposition for my sellers. I've reduced it for the presentation purposes to a 7-step infographic, 1 page circular, and I communicate with that so that each person, I can watch them and see how they're reacting to it to say, do I need to slow down for the steadiness? Do I need to cross some more T's and get into details because the C's not trusting me? What do I have to do? So it really helped me understand that in the context of dealing with people. I mean, this is a tremendous, tremendous sales training, right? So understanding your DISC personality profile can help you communicate more effectively with others by adjusting your communication and interaction style. Right? So I just gave you the examples of that. So the interaction style dovetailed beautifully with the unique selling proposition, right? So not only do I use a unique selling proposition to introduce us over the phone in an open house or whatever, it allows me to interact with them against that framework, which keeps us both honest, me and the prospect or client, whatever they are, keeps us honest in a framework. Otherwise, there's a lot of babbling and talking and confusion, and a confused mind does nothing. You can have a wonderful rapport with somebody. This is why I cringe a little bit when I hear people saying, oh yeah, you just keep talking on the phone until you build rapport. No, you don't. You make sure that you're communicating effectively to help these people feel empowered. And by doing so, the rapport will naturally build itself, right? That's what I have learned is 10 times more effective. So your interaction style changes. And your communication is not just what you say, it's also, like I said, those implements or those tools, in my case, an infographic printed out on cardboard paper, cardboard stock paper, so that we can really deal with that, right? Now, by leveraging your strengths and improving your weaknesses, you can become a more effective team member, right? So, team member, I could insert salesperson, because in any multi-person interaction, by being cognizant of all the differences in the room and your strengths and weaknesses, you can adjust. And so, if you really think about this, what I teach my coaching clients one-on-one is stop talking about this team concept where they're top producers and they go out and hire other agents and hope that somehow those other agents are going to lessen their burden to sell. Rather, think about a real team. In a real team, and what just came to my mind was the Indy 500. When you watch the driver pull in, and you watch that team go to work with a system, it is mind-boggling. It's like within 2 seconds, I think they're in and out. Now, the technology and the ideas and the systems got so refined, it's almost like boom, they're in and out. It's over. Watch it online. It's stunning. I watched one time the evolution of a pit stop, and it goes from, multi-seconds to like within a couple of seconds, right? I don't know whether it's down to like 3 seconds or whatever it is. Think about that. 1, 2, 3, go, right? That's how fast somebody can be there. Well, all of those team members now knowing their strengths and their weaknesses and their roles and using technology that has changed. That's the world we live in, to know who you are and to leverage technology amongst really specialty roles in a team. You can be extraordinarily successful. But what I would implore you more is to see the buyer and the seller as the team, so that you're really becoming more effective with them by having this communication style, because you're conscious of who you are and who they are. I can think of this gal that wants to buy a $2 million property. And I can tell you right now that she's somewhere in the S and C category. She worked, she was the costume designer or head of costumes for Friends at one point in time out in Hollywood. And so obviously costumes are a super detailed thing, right? I mean, how it looks, on and on it could go, right? So she's definitely a C. So she was a little bit cautious about going out to see properties with us. And she said, well, I don't want to bother you. And I said to Laura, just keep her sending her information. We're not bothering her ourselves. Send information. And that slowly opened her up a little bit. She would ask a few questions. And then I said to Laura, I am the client. So tell me about the open houses and where I will be, and I will go there for her. So I will go above and beyond for this high C who's going to definitely be paralyzed herself. She's too busy with her daughter to go out and see stuff. I'll go. So you see what I mean? I become a very good team member with my client because I know that she's stuck. I don't need to tell her she's stuck. I just need to go do this. And I finally convinced her, hey, listen, I know you're probably not going to buy this. I know you don't want to do something till the summertime, but let's go see this one because this is so unique. We went there and I knew she wasn't going to buy it. We were there for an hour. I watched her walk through the home, stare at things, thinking about things, right? Just being a high C, thinking about all the details, but emotionally feeling like, wow, this could work for me. Wow, this is a beautiful house. So you see what I mean? By being conscious of this, I didn't say, oh, we're going to wait till the summer for her. I said, no, how could I continue to be a good team member before we really get serious and keep adding value and protecting that relationship with her too, right? So that's an example of it, all right? So committing to constant improvement, which I referenced earlier, okay? So Masaki Imai, who I didn't know when I did this course, I started looking it up. You can get some terms about Kaizen, right? From let me give you his name again, Masaki Imai. Go check it out. Kaizen is an extremely powerful way to self-improve. It's also just well, I'll get into it. It's the Japanese term for constant improvement, right? Or the Japanese term is Kaizen, right? So this is a philosophy that Toyota, when I was reading about Kaizen early in my coaching career and my self-development career, I was thinking to myself, okay, Kaizen is how the Toyota became one of the most powerful car companies in the world because they employ this philosophy of slow and steady improvement, right? And that's what Kaizen is. So by focusing on continuous improvement, you can make small incremental changes that add up over time. Let me give you an example for us right now in our coaching program. So we have a master script list now. We had them all discombobulated. We used to mind map them out when we were thinking about this strategy. And now we have evolved in our coaching mastermind program to a singular script. But the incremental changes, we're going to be working on some of that stuff with our team, our mastermind members tomorrow. And I said, okay, after we go through some of the accountability stuff we do with numbers, let's go take a look at the scripts again. And I am telling you, I am literally highlighting the spoken words in a certain font and size. I'm putting my notes that are not highlighted. I went to the Google Doc and I started to create different headings so that when you're looking at a Google Doc, you can see the outline over here so that by the click of a mouse button, you can immediately be at the part of the script you need to be if you're talking on a headset and you get lost. That's the kind of small incremental changes that add up over time. That if you imagine a telemarketer who early on is stumbly a little bit and gets a little bit nervous, if you can just teach them, when in doubt, go to the offer, click offer, read it, boom, done. You can eliminate all of this other stuff. Well, in the beginning, we had these things printed out, taped up to walls, right? So you see, that's what I mean. We leverage simple technologies, like as simple as a stupid outline in Google Docs that's clickable, that somebody now makes that change with the timing. But if you listen to recorded calls, you can see how quickly you can lose somebody if you get lost. That's a perfect example of Kaizen in our coaching program. So the key to constant improvement is to establish a culture of commitment and accountability. And so when I'm coaching or I'm with my own team, let me talk about my own sales machine team. I have 2 telemarketers up front. They go and prospect each day, in my case, expireds and probates, right? That's what we chose. And they go out there and they create these opportunities through a script to send out our unique selling proposition, which again, we'll talk about in week 3. That order gets sent to the office here in Osterville, Massachusetts. And Annabelle, she fulfills all those packages according to the formula and mails them out at the post office down the street, just like Amazon. We try to turn them around in 24 hours so that they're out the door. I'm not saying, we could overnight them, but we just send them, regular mail. So they're going to go out in the regular mail 4 or 5 days later. It's there. So that's a culture of commitment to following the system. And everybody's accountable to that. If one of those folks doesn't perform, right? If Annabelle doesn't send that out for like 2 days, now all of a sudden that system has a crack in it and the experience for the consumer is off, right? Or the telemarketer doesn't get enough information from me so that if they've booked me to take the package with me and they have an appointment, if they haven't filled out the seller qualifying questionnaire, I have to go in and do a lot of extra work. So that's what the culture sounds like, because over time, what we have found is that the more micromanaged the system is, the less micromanaged we have to be. Let that sink in. If you commit to this continuous improvement of your system, then what happens is it makes your life easier so you can evolve more of yourself in that place with people on the team, in the public, wherever it might be. And you hold yourself accountable to all of that more easily, because accountability is the biggest problem. And there's a lot of fallout between team members, because especially managers who haven't really done it yet. A lot of top producers, want to grow these teams and they don't even know how to commit to a system themselves. So how can they hold anybody else accountable? Makes no sense. So I see some of the worst accountability setups I've ever seen, where the manager that comes to me for help won't commit to a systematic approach. Well, then I say, then don't you dare chastise that person, your telemarketer, your client care manager, your closing coordinator, unless there's a checklisted system that they're committed to and accountable to, right? That's what this means. So by continuously improving your processes and systems, you can create a streamlined and more efficient organization. I've already given you several examples of that, right? We can move things through faster and more organized than ever before. It's a better experience for the consumer and it's faster. It's not so clunky. So it is super streamlined and fast. So what's the punchline to that? Your time management goes through the roof when you commit to this. So to go back and summarize how you pull these pieces together, we started off with the theater of the mind of you imagining yourself being a profitable agent, taking an inventory of your strengths and weaknesses now, and then committing to the self-improvement process yourself, which will make your systems improve over time. That's how you develop yourself into one of these profitable agents, right? Okay, so voila, there we are. Let me try to get out of here. And I'm going to stop that there. That's enough for the lecture tonight. And I'm going to go open it up and say welcome to everybody who's here. So I got Jordan, Andre, Stanley. Any questions from any of you would be certainly welcomed. If you'd also like to just pop it in the chat, that would be fine too. And I can answer questions. In the meantime, let me go some of my ringers. I'll go to Grant. I'll go to Roberto. Pablo, if you're in a quiet place, any of you want to weigh in or comment on this subject tonight would be great.
I never get tired of hearing the
Yeah, I know it's crazy, isn't it? See, like because that's
message and hear the your mind.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
see that's commitment. Like you've been one of those guys I've known forever, like Paul, right? It's
yeah,
that I don't ever get tired of saying this because it recommits me each time like I just had a whole bunch of thinking points of what I wanted to do differently starting tomorrow just by reading that stuff again.
yeah. I read that book. Was it Honda or Toyota? The book about Toyota.
Yeah,
Remember in
yeah,
that book, that family started out working like wool looms. They were making fabrics or
right.
blankets, whatever they were doing on the wool. And he was looking at the technology on that machine. And I don't know if I'm getting off topic, but looking at the technology, and it was like, how can we make this better? How can we be more efficient? And it just
Yeah.
kind of turned into the engine and then the automobile. Yeah.
Michael Gerber talks about a game worth playing, and that game of improvement is the fun game, right? So,
Hmm.
again, we'll talk about next week on setting the financial goal as the target and how to improve the processes to get that target, right? Certainly, we'll talk about that. But when you consider the game worth playing, that's more global, it is that game of improvement. So all the while you're self-improving by using these techniques of self-image, it's making you subconsciously want to wake up the next day and say, hey, you know what? I might read that book about Toyota and get a little bit more detail. Hey, I don't really have a unique selling proposition. What's he talking about? I'm going to go jump back and take a look at his week number 3, and I'm going to go see physically what he's talking about. That's exactly what Roberto did, by the way. So Roberto was going to consume all of our free resources in this course and beyond. He would go and saw some old, Realty Classroom videos online and just started to learn and started to implement stuff like that. Roberto, is that a fair statement? So like your self-image, when you started, I don't know if you remember this first course whenever you picked this up, but you started to act more resourcefully once there was some stimulation to improve. Yeah? Can you
Yes.
talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, I saw your video through the Take 52, the Vulcan interview through the coach, and then would ring the information that I got from the interview when you were being interviewed is being profitable and specifically, uh, you know, focusing on specific price points and above that. And all that attracted me. So I started looking at, yes, your old videos from I think like 3 years ago when
Mhm.
you would do when you would do the telemarketing calls, the coaching calls. So I started listening to all of that and really getting a feel for your systems and how you coach. So after I dug so deep, I actually, reached out to you and got in your coaching program. But yeah, having the system and having that image and setting setting specific price points and areas so that way I could be on the long term more profitable.
Yeah. Yeah. What was just out of curiosity, once that all became conscious, what was the first thing that you really did to try to take an action step? What
Oh,
action step did you change?
yeah, so I actually started mailing the before I got into your coaching program,
Mhm.
I mimicked what you did to the best of my knowledge back then. So what I did is I did the yeah, the newsletter. So you gave me the guy you use for your newsletter. So I started using my MLS information. So I started mailing those folders with that information. And then I made up this really like a 7-step plan to the best of my knowledge to
Mhm.
provide. Obviously I didn't have yours, so I just made one up that was fairly simple. And then I also implemented the recent properties that sold. I stuck those in the folder. And when I was getting some callbacks from people that I would speak to and mail them that information, then that's when it clicked for me, because then I felt like I was not just selling off a muscle as before I got into your coaching program. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
what I was
Cool.
doing.
Cool. Awesome. Um, any advice for somebody that's at that point that you were at? What's the fastest path to go improve?
Um, I would say, I mean, definitely being a value to someone that you want to focus on, specifically someone that's expired, someone that still needs to sell, giving them that information that way they feel more comfortable. Or maybe some people I'm in the process of helping, that I just called neighborhoods, and this family is getting ready to move to Texas. They're like 70% moved. And I mailed them a package after I got into your coaching program, and really got the bones, um, got all the information that they need to be more empowered. Is you know, definitely just providing them with all the information. That way they can make an informed decision. A lot of times, if they're ready, they'll definitely pick you.
Yeah. So that's,
'Cause,
yeah,
that
listening to you, I'm listening to the already programmed subconscious mind that's just speaking about empowering. That's a word we use all the time. And that's very closely tied to the law of reciprocity, giving away your best what to do information for free, right? So
yeah,
all of that stuff is really critical and important. So that's good. Yeah, it's good to hear your subconscious mind really talking through, and it's becoming habitually, something you do, right? So you talk like this on a regular basis, because I'm certain that at some point in time, and you're dealing with an elderly gentleman who had to move into assisted living. We talked one-on-one in our coaching, we talked about how to handle that. And so that's a really wonderful story of caretaking for you, right? So you
yeah,
have that giver's heart, but that's where all of the tactical, first strategic, to be a person for others is the highest calling, to do that through giving information, to these people that need it in the context of their timing. He needed to downsize. And there was a couple of, frustrations there, in the beginning, and you helped him and his son work through all that, right? And
yeah.
has the house gone on the market yet?
Not yet. I'm coordinating the carpet cleaners. They'll be
Yeah,
going
that's
in
right.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So
But
you got
it's
him moved
yeah,
first. You got him settled, which is always an angst. But
mm,
this has to be feeling very empowering for you as an agent, because you're really changing somebody's life for the better. Who it's very difficult when if somebody's elderly, it's very difficult to get from where they are to end up going, like, to where they're going next. So I think for you, that's been a very important thing, right?
yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, awesome. Love it. I just want to say this. It's interesting too. While I was doing this call, I saw something pop up and I saw what it says. It says information, information, information. This is from Luke Krause. Luke is also in our coaching program like you. And Luke works with one of my long-term clients, Dean Miller, in Long Island. And he said, hey, I just got the text from the seller we've spoken about. Now, the reason I bring him up on a mindset call is because Luke's a young guy at 22 years old who we're teaching, don't just think you're a street hustle Long Islander doing this on rapport. Lead with the information. So I made him give me an inventory of all his prospects, go back and get all information to this, right? So, hey, I just got the text from the seller we've spoken about, right? Um, So, in other words, he was just saying, "Hi, wedding is on Friday, and then it's time to make a move. You're going to have your work cut out for you, because I'm going to have to look at a lot of houses to find one." She's got 4 crying, laughing emojis. You're going to earn your money with me. But that's the commitment that he hadn't had from her, right? So he
Yeah.
wasn't there yet. She's the hairdresser, I believe, that is, number one, the daughter's getting married, and then she's going to like downsize, I think, or upsize. I can't remember what she's doing. But then he says to me, information, information, information. Because what I told him to do is act as if you are going to win. Because he was saying, well, she likes me, but she said she has a friend who's kind of a rookie agent. Said, you're dead. It's over. Unless you position yourself as a true professional, which is what the core of the profitable real estate agent is. They're the ones that define themselves as a professional that's not like the friend that kind of has a license. It's the person who comes in with a package of information and presents that package of information the way we teach it in week 3, right? So that that person now sees you as the only professional. And she's like, yeah, my girlfriend doesn't really do this anyway, because now that's what happened. And that's how he's winning this, right? So it really is a lot to do with how we see ourselves. If you see yourself as the street hustle 22-year-old who can hustle a deal, there's some benefit to that, right? There's a skill set to that. There's no doubt about it. However, having said that, that's not a formula for success. That's not a strategy. And it's not a real business thing. It's just muscle. And that's what leads us to think, oh, I had these people. Why did they cheat on me? Those lousy people. No, you never had them. They didn't cheat on you. That buyer didn't go with somebody else just because it was her girlfriend. You never did enough to act professionally and position yourself so that, and again, a lot of what we talk about in this group is getting into a competitionless lane. It doesn't mean you're eliminating competition, but when you behave like this with information giveaway first that's empowering, they're drawn to you magnetically. You're not chasing and grabbing them where everybody else is doing that, right? So it does take subconscious mind programming, and you do have to get in a habit of saying these things. But my gosh, the minute it starts to work, you're like, holy mackerel, this like really works like this. These laws of human behavior actually work like this. But we become conscious of them here, apply them, get the real world feedback. Now it's easy to get addicted to it, make it a new habit, right?
Yeah.
Good. Anything else we add here today? Because I like to keep these at an hour for you so we don't go too far. Anybody else want to add something real quick? Ask a quick question? Make a comment?
Hi, Danny.
Danny.
Oh, hi, Andre. Hang on. Hey, Andre, go ahead. Fire away. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, good, good. How can I help?
So, how does engaging with sellers that are expired listings, like, how is that effective?
How's it effective? It's more so, well, it's more so, how would you make it effective? Let's give a short answer to it, okay? Because I don't want to confuse with a lot of different things that I would say. But the most important thing, Andre, is that you would first see the unique selling proposition package for any type of seller. Expired is just a context of a type of seller. So fundamentally at the bottom is what every seller needs. They need pictures and details of properties that sold around theirs, straight from MLS, just like realtors, a little above their price and a little below. So it gives them a bracket around theirs, right? And you can get a guesstimate of their price from the Redfin algorithm, Zillow, Realtor.com, any of them, right? So you could figure out what they need. They also need a market update so that they can see what's happening. And in our group, we have a template for that gets, completed every month. But you could get something off the MLS that tells them how's the market with stats. And then they need a plan. So in our case, it's a 7-step plan that starts with pricing. If you don't like your pricing, you recondition, stage. Then there's the how to market your property, how to, solicit the feedback from buyers, agents, and open house, attendees. Then that leads to negotiation based on the math and closing. So there's your 7 steps that you're educating them on. So you have to have that kind of a package ready. And if you want to go back and look at week 3's tape, go to the end of it. I actually show mine, right? So that's that package that I bring. Now you're asking me a question about expireds, and you're kind of asking me a question of what to say to introduce that information. I'll frame it for you. Andre, this is Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is because I saw your beautiful home online and I noticed that it didn't sell. So I'd like to send you some information that will help you sell it the next time. May I do that? So that's a very hard thing to say no to if you don't have a realtor yet, that you're going with a new one, you're not going back with the same one, right? And you have decided to still sell it. So you have context still to sell it. It's hard to say no to that. It's literally like me taking a rubber hammer and hitting you on the knee, just like the doctor, and up goes your knee. Yes. Wonderful. Listen, Andre, we take the time to customize that package of information, and it will conclude pictures and details of properties that sold around yours, straight from MLS, just like realtors. It will also include a one-page statistical market update that will show you the exact direction of current market pricing. And as a bonus, I will include a copy of my 7-step plan. May I send that? So we double opt them in to make sure that they truly do want this, right? Yes, great, wonderful. May I confirm the mailing address is such and such? Yes, it is. Great. Listen, like I said, I do take the time to customize it. So I'd like to call you next week to make sure it arrives. What's the best day to call you? What's the best time on Thursday to call you? Okay, great. I'm going to call you Thursday at 3 o'clock to make sure this package arrives. Hey, by the way, while I have you, it does look like a beautiful house. Why were you thinking about selling it? Now we shut up and list them. And this is if we can get it all in a one phone call because they're playing tennis. If they're in a hurry, they just say, just send it. Great. I'll call you next week. But wherever we are, we pick up. Looks like a beautiful house. Why are you trying to sell it? Now we listen. Because now, even though our offer has been accepted, we're trying to think to ourselves, is this the right avatar? I don't want to just send all this information that's customized for them out to them if they don't have context to sell. So I know they have context to expire. They expired. I know that context, but I don't know why they expired. I don't know whether they were just whimsically putting on the market. I don't know if they have context and still want to sell it. Some people have gone in and they've rented it or whatever they've done, right? So now I get a why. Well, we're divorcing. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated would you say you are? I'm an 11. Great. How about your spouse? Yeah, she's a 6. Oh, does she want to keep it? Yeah, I think so. Can you sell it to her? No, there's no way that's going to happen. Well, listen, what I could do is I could send a package to you and her. Are you both living at the house still? No, I live over in so-and-so, the address, that I gave you, but she lives there. Well, listen, why don't I do this? I can make 2 packages, and I don't know, are you on speaking terms? Yes. Okay. Well, why don't you give her a heads up? Then I'm sending this to you. And by the way, it will empower both of you to start to figure out what this is worth so that you can begin to understand in a divorce what would be left over. Now, of course, if it's okay after you get this stuff, I'd be more than happy to come over, take a look at it. I'd give you both tips on what to do and what not to do to get top dollar, but I'd also do an analysis of the price that includes a net sheet that would show you what you'd walk away with. So you let me know when that's appropriate, because I think that'll help the divorce proceedings. So there's not a lot of craziness about appraisals and all this that don't mean anything, right? There you go. So the whole thing is about empowering that person, right? So I hope that answered the question, because the way you asked it, I wasn't sure exactly. It's always helpful for any seller. For sale by owner. You want to see me switch that? How's it helpful to call us for sale by owner? Andre, this is Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is I saw your beautiful house online and I noticed that you were trying to sell it yourself. So I'd like to send you some information that will help you do that. May I send it? So all I do is I change the context, but at the core, I have this package. B2, he says, yeah, sure. Great. I take the time to customize it. It'll include 1, 2, 3, right? Always the same. That's what a system does to empower you. You're not reinventing your approach for every context. You're just recognizing the context and making your core unique selling proposition offer of this information package that will then subsequently empower them. Make sense?
Yeah, I spoke to an agent about this kind of strategy, right? Consulting expired listings. And what he explained was he didn't see it as an effective method because banks are not willing to loan to expired listings. That's what he quoted.
What?
So I'm not sure what
That doesn't make, that makes like 0 sense. So first of all, stop talking to him. Okay. Like that's makes 0 sense. Unless you're just misinterpreting what he said. That's absurd. Lending on a house has absolutely nothing to do with that. Lending has to do with the buyer's capability to buy that. And part of that capability is whether the house will appraise for that amount of money that justifies the loan. So you just need some more education about the basics of lending and a loan. But that's probably the worst advice you got so far, I bet. Right? And again, I'm not knocking the person that gave it to you. Tell them they should be in here with me. I'll straighten that out in 30 seconds because that's just bad advice.
Yeah, what he said is he'd rather me look for clients that are within my community because it's like I have that familiar that
Yeah,
familiar
familiarity with them. Yeah.
with them already,
Well, because
right?
that's Andre, that's what they all say. Everybody
Yeah.
runs you to your sphere of influence first.
Right.
Okay. So great. Go talk to everybody you're familiar with, whether you're friends, they're family friends, they live in your neighborhood, they play on your team, they go to your school. Sure, there's familiarity, but do they have any context to sell? Do they have any context to buy? Whereas I know an expired had context to sell because they already tried to do it. I know a FISBO has context to sell because they're already trying to do it. I know a probate where somebody's died and there's real estate in the state, they may have context to sell. So you can chase everybody that you want, but what's the shortest distance between 2 points? They teach you that in school. You know? It's called a straight line. It's called a straight line, right? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So I want straight lines in my business. I want the shortest distance from A to B to get a listing at or above the median price to be a profitable agent. So an expired gives me a direct line into somebody with context. A FISBO does the same, right? A probate does the same when there's real estate in the estate. Those are just three examples I could go to, right? Now, if you're out there and you're generally in the marketplace and you're making noise in your sphere of influence, I recommend you do it with a market update that you're presenting it to everybody. And that you say to that sphere of influence, by the way, if you're thinking about selling or buying, I have a package of information that will help you do so. Right. But again, it's just look at we talked about mindset today. You should share this video with this person that said that to you, right? And by the way, does that person sell any houses?
Yeah, he's been an agent for a long time.
Okay, so he has a sphere of influence.
Andre, I can answer that question for you. That is from the homeowner's perspective. If I own a home, I list it for sale, and it doesn't sell, if I try to refinance, I will have a hard time getting the loan right away.
Yeah, that's very
That
true. In fact, you can't have your house on the market if you're trying to refinance, right? So that Stanley, thank you. That's a heady comment because that could very well have been the perspective. But again, when you're taking advice from a veteran who's been around a while and is used to having already built up a sphere of influence of especially past clients who are likely to repeat and refer, that's easy for him to say that to you. As a new agent, it takes a while to build
Hmm.
contextual, that sphere of influence of past clients, right?
Well,
Now, and there are areas that you might have influence now, but still you have to find the people with the context to sell. Go ahead, Paulie. Were you trying to say something?
I would just say that, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. Obviously, everybody that's a FISBO, probate, canceled, expired, have obviously raised their hand. And so, Andre, those are people that you should chase. Okay, Danny's 1000% right. But you seem like a very uh, friendly person, and I'm sure you have a lot of people that already like you. You've probably gone to college. You probably have played on sports teams. You probably have family. You probably have 100+ people that you already know, and they probably have 1,000 people that they know. So you have a huge sphere of influence. You don't have to have past clients. You need to tap into them immediately before you even get into real estate. In my opinion, you should be building up a list of those people who want to be your biggest fans, who already love you, who want to cheer you on in this next endeavor. And that's what I keep begging my current agents to do is put together a damn list and put it into my CRM so they can begin to send this nice market watch that Danny's putting up right now on this screen via email, and even more importantly to their top 50 in hard copy form with a nice cover letter and their business card every quarter. And then at their local coffee shop where they're talking to the barista, leave a copy on the bulletin board where they're the community bulletin board at the grocery, at the da da da. you know, that's the build up a sphere of influence. That's the way you build up your brand. So Danny's right, but you can do it both ways. And there's a
Oh, you
lot of
should do it
money
both ways. You should.
in the other,
Let's
and there's a
qualify.
lot of money in the other pipeline. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, let's qualify this. You should do it both ways, but trying to build influence through information marketing by we create one of these every single month. Okay. And as you can see here, when we put it up on our website, for example, if I go into the page, we have share buttons built in. We can share this immediately to our social media, our LinkedIn profile, and we can comment on it, right? So I can go out there and share that immediately. So I can create that professionalized, and again, we get into this in the content marketing section of this plan, is that's something that you can do. You can't just pick up the phone and call your sphere of influence and start chasing them. Prospects pursued, run away. You have to provide something of empowerment. And this is what Roberto was talking about. So at bare minimum, we highly recommend for your area. Where are you, by the way? What marketplace?
I'm based in Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. Okay. So the idea here is, well, you should go have a cup of coffee with Paul. He'll teach you all of this, right? Go meet him for a cup of coffee. He'll teach you all this. So the idea is, when you look at this, you create something like this, because this is the answer to how's the market. And when people, you say to people, oh, I got my real estate license. Oh, really? How's the market? You want to be able to give them a meaningful specific, right? And that's what this is. This is a meaningful specific, meaning you can be very specific when they say how the market is, right? Well, geez, in Charleston, the average price is, geez, it took a big jump in the first quarter, year over year. Like, we're up 16% over last year. And the inventory is actually gone up a little bit too, which is helpful, but it's still only 1 month's worth. That's all very specific information, right? So you want to be empowered by, yourself with information first. Now you can go and you can market your knowledge to your sphere of influence. You can mail this to people. You can email this to people. You can have this as the opening. You could, go around your neighborhood where you have influence, and you could door hang this. It's endless. The point here tonight, though, is if you want to get a listing today, not someday, there are conversations that you can have right now. So one does not exclude the other, to Paul's point, right? Tonight is about mindset, and it's about seeing yourself as being able to do any of this. To not do, and I use the example tonight, I don't know when you came into the call, I use the example tonight that I dismissed expireds for far too many years. Want to see what I cost myself? I'll take you for a little walk. Okay. Ready for a little walk? 13.5 expired. 3.99 expired. Okay. Let's see. 3.295 coming on shortly. Expired. 295 expired. That was a probate. So I gave you that example today too. 90 College Ave expired. Right? Dern Street, 335, expired. 3.15, CPIT, expired. So I could go on and on and on, that you can sell yourself that doesn't work, but instead you have a mindset that everything's a possibility. It's just, how are you going to do it? Make sense, Andre?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Have you ever visited with Paul on the phone or personally? Did you guys know each other at all?
No, everything that Andre, all the interactions that Andre and I have had have been, he's been great about coming on to my Tuesday team meetings, but it's all been virtual.
Yeah.
Thus far.
Yeah.
At some point, we're all going to go do some mini golf or something soon.
Yeah, Andre, you got a super stud, professional there in Seattle. You should go spend some free time with him. The guy gives away his free time all the time. Go meet him for a cup of coffee. He'll answer. Get a whole list of your questions and go meet him. And
there's a pizza place across the street. I meet everybody at. It's literally 50 feet from my front door. That's where I meet everybody at. So, yeah.
Go. I highly recommend that. He's right down the street. He's my partner. He knows this stuff inside and out. So take advantage, right? Cool. All right. Anything else, gang? Because I went way over time today, but I liked the question, and I don't like to leave people hanging. We good? Okay.
Dan, I sent you a bunch of website stuff, so please look at it.
You bet. I'll jump on it tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, gang, thanks for being here live. Everybody else that's watching it on either YouTube now or over on oh, you can't watch on the site anymore on Facebook. So go back into the videos though. Every one of these things is recorded. You can find the right week. Just go backwards. If I missed one, it won't be far off. Okay. Very good.